So the big question is this: how are retail traders like us, who don't have access to big capital and cutting-edge technology, competing against big banks and institutions, putting money from our own pockets, come up with trading methods that beat the market and consistently grow their trading accounts and make a living out of it? So this is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Hello and welcome to the Forex Trading Secrets podcast with your host, Imi Yusufzai. I am the founder of iTrade Ames Stress-Free Trading, and yes, the podcast is back. Sorry, I was away for 4 months, and I am planning to upload a podcast every Friday or Tuesday. Today I've got a special episode. I have a special guest, a very interesting personality. My guest today is a member of our Ames Live Trading Room. I have mentored him through our Slack group for the last 6 months. But let me tell you, he has an interesting story to tell. So we are going to talk to Ganesh. Ganesh has been with us for over a year now, but active only the last 6 months. He's part of our trading room, a regular. So now let's talk to Ganesh and let's find out what he has to say. Hi, Ganesh. Should I call you Ganesh or Ari?
Yeah, Ganesh is perfectly fine.
Right. Thank you very much for joining me today. As you know, I'm really excited to talk to you about your trading methods and the entire process. So how are you today anyway?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Well, for the circumstances, right? We live in a funny world at the moment with the coronavirus. But, I've always been a very positive person. So I'm trying to make the most out of this time. I think it's the only time in our lifetime where we can just actually take a break, not rush from A to B. So, trying to make the most.
Yeah, this is a different time. I feel like I was quarantined for a while. Yeah. Tell us about yourself. I mean, a little bit of background.
My background is quite funny. It's I've got a sort of the Asian mentality in me. Parents are Sri Lankan, but I was born and bred in Germany, so the German discipline was instilled in me from a very young age. I played quite high-level football, and I also was like a referee, and you just learn the German. I guess the values, the way of life, but it was mixed with sort of the Sri Lankan flair. So quite interesting upbringing. I grew up in a very small, tiny village in Germany. It was like an hour away from Munich, countryside. Nothing much going on there. But I always had a dream of, living in the big city, building something big, doing something great, doing something big. So I was always very driven by that from a very young age. Partially also because, truth be told, we weren't necessarily very well off. So money was a bit scarce when I was younger. So I was always looking to find a way to make money. And I guess I was fortunate that around 2006, 2007, the internet started coming up, and I was exploring a little bit with like YouTube. I made a few videos and still have a few videos live. With like one of the videos has like more than a couple of million views.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I was actually like back in the days. I had videos with like 20 million views. Not myself. I was just putting out interesting topics out there.
Wow.
And what you do on the back of that is, back in the days you couldn't do all the fancy stuff like editing the videos and putting links in. I just used Windows Movie Maker and inserted the link into the video. People start clicking on the website, going to the website. And then you had these pop-up ads, and they were paying quite well back in the days.
Oh, the pop-up ad story.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was doing that. I remember as a 16-year-old kid, I was making a little bit of cash, which was nice. And then, for some reason, that was stupid for me. I didn't really think this YouTube thing is going to be big or could be a career or whatnot. So I started making websites with a school friend of mine for local businesses, because you have to bear in mind, back in the days, no one had a website. It was fairly new. And even though my friend was the techie, but because I was the brown guy, they just thought I was a Indian stereotypical programmer. So it was quite a fun story. I was walking around and just buying those templates for like $50 on Joomla or WordPress, and then selling them for like $1,000 or $2,000. So that's how my entrepreneurial story actually started.
That's quite
Uh,
interesting. And you were ahead of the curve or ahead of the time when you ventured into YouTube. It's a bit like
y-
ours as well. When we put our videos on YouTube first,
mm.
it was just a waste. So you wouldn't believe I had my comments blocked on my videos that I uploaded in 2011.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, bloody hell.
yeah. Stupidity, right? Right.
But so yeah, it's been that was a great adventure. But for me, or from Asian background, you either become an engineer or a doctor or maybe an accountant. But so that was sort of the options for me, which my parents were very adamant on. So I then decided to say, hey, Germany was great, but I wanted to experience something new. So I applied for universities in the UK, and I came to out of all the places to Birmingham, because I felt like London was quite expensive and Birmingham, was the second largest city in the UK, and it was quite well rated for student life. Yeah, so that's me from a small tiny village in Germany, jumping on a flight and coming to London, and then driving up to Ashton University in Birmingham, and yeah, it was great. But the thing with me then, I studied management and strategy, whatever that means. Can't remember anything, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do long term, and people were talking about investment banking, talking about the films like Wall Street, etc. were very
That's when
exciting.
you were in the uni.
I was a university, yeah.
Okay.
I was a university, and I founded the Aston Trading and Investment Society just to learn more about trading and investment. But I was actually better at just building the society, and my vice president, he was the trading guy. And through that, I was fortunate enough. I got myself like a 12 months placement, which then was extended to like 15 months at Morgan Stanley. So from Birmingham, I then moved down to London, and I spent 12 months as an intern in the Morgan Stanley front office. I was in prime
That's
brokerage.
smashing. That's smashing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had an offer from Goldman as well, but I took Morgan because it's more of a client-facing. Well, I thought it was more of a client-facing position, but as an intern, there's not much client-facing. And I was working there for 12 months in prime brokerage. And that really opened my eyes to the world of banking, not even banking, just the world of hedge funds, and seeing these guys, a few $1 billion running around, trading, making those big decisions, and it was just an interesting thing just to learn as a young early 20s and observe. But towards the end of my 12 months, even though it was great and exciting, the problem I had is I just didn't like the corporate culture, and I also realized very quickly that, so bearing in mind this was around 2011, 2012, that the good times in banking were over. People were talking about the past, about pre-2008, but banks were not the same anymore. And I realized this could be perhaps a not a dying industry, but a declining industry. And I also didn't
Heavily
like
regulated after that. Yeah.
very heavily regulated. I mean, I had to bloody even get a permission to install like an Adobe thing from the group MD. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's like 40 quid a month, and just like internal regulation and also external regulation. And I just thought, what, this corporate world is not the one for me. And because I had an entrepreneurial background, and I finish work late and go home and start working with some ideas. And anyways, the whole placement year came to an end, and I then
Can
went
I
back to Yeah, go on.
ask you a question on that? Because I
Of
didn't
course.
know about this, and obviously that's why we are talking.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, if there are any, later on, I just wanted to say I've never actually spoken to you before because we don't do the live calls anymore. And I think if we did, we would know each other quite a lot more. And
Yeah.
this is kind of the first step towards that. I think if we understand and know each other more, we can then be more helpful to each other. Like, if you know personality of other people. But anyway, my question was, and kind of like in between, I wanted to say, this story I've heard from a few people that, they get into these internships and stuff. And quite a big number of them, they then disappear and start doing other stuff. I know a children's specialist, who lives here in King's Heath, Birmingham, with us. His son goes to the same school, and he used to work for this same bank you mentioned. Was it that one or was it Goldman? One of those, and he tells me how he used to, take $4 and $5 billion positions and move the markets here and there. And he was the director there, and he left that.
Wow.
Yeah, he left it, and he pursued his passion of becoming a children's specialist. So he went to medical school, used the money that he had made, and now he's a children's specialist here in Birmingham
Wow.
Children's Hospital.
That's insane.
So yeah, so if my question would be like, why did you leave? But I kind of know. But if you want, I mean, what is the main reason you left? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, it was like a 12 months placement program anyway. So it was like within my degree, right?
okay.
So at some point, I had to come back to university. Obviously, offered me to come back after uni and join them on the proper grad program. But I came back to university, and that 12, I was so glad. I'm so glad I did that 12. Well, I was like 15 months in the end, because it taught me how corporate world works. It taught me how it is to be an employee.
What are the main things you have learned there? Like, are there any specific things from those 12 months? One or two
12
things.
months. The main thing I learned, or like the key things I learned, is just more about myself, in the sense that even though these organizations are great, but you need to be a certain type of person to fit into that corporate world. And my mindset, though, the way I was trained from a very young age, doing my own entrepreneurial things, like. I don't want to say I'm a rule breaker, but I like to think outside of the box. I like to ask questions. I like to do things my own way, figure things my own way, and then, be a bit more of a creative spirit. And that may have worked pre-2008, but after 2008, as you said, it was very regulated, and you were very limited to what you could do. And also, I just didn't like the idea of hierarchy, to be honest. That you have to wait like bloody, God knows how many years to go to MD position or whatsoever, and office politics.
Absolutely.
I've always been a very real guy, very straight talking. All my friends, all my business partners. I'm a very real, straight talking guy. So it's just I just did not like the idea of being someone else in the office. I just didn't like the idea that I couldn't bring myself to the office. And that's something which you will hear later on in my story, how that played into something else. And that was a fundamental part for me, just going to the office and for a week, just being a different person. I just did not like that, and that was sort of the main reason why I felt like, what, this is not for me. I'm in my early 20s. I've got nothing to lose. This is the time to do something. I can start a business. I can try it, and if I fail, I fail. And the guys at Morgan were very open, very friendly, and said, "Listen, you do your own thing. If it doesn't work, give us a call." So that was always that.
That's great.
Was always that backup. And even now, I'm great friends, and a lot of my mentors are still, people from the banking world, who now come into my office and see my progress and my story today, and they're very happy and proud, and they tell me, listen, if they had the chance to do their own thing, they would have done it, but they didn't have it because the world was different back in the days. Now we live in a different world. It's more open.
That's great. That's lovely to hear. That's amazing to learn about, and obviously I didn't know at all, and. So this is the pre-trading story of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
that exposure, you got the trading bug in you there. That's it, because you can't get rid of it, can you? Yeah.
100%. When you walk on the Morgan Stanley trading floor, I mean, back in the days, now it's all machines, right? But back in the days, you see, if someone like, you see, let's say a big news comes out, let's say Warren Buffett. I remember he's like buying some stocks in Goldman or whatsoever, and just the whole floor just goes crazy, and the energy and the buzz and the markets. And one thing also perhaps to bear in mind, I still remember early on when I was like 11, 12, my dad bought me some bonds and stuff, and I would spend every day just looking at the price after school, how it moves up and down. So I always had something about trading and the bug and the markets. There's something in me which I always liked and enjoyed. And so that was I guess an underlying theme. So, but before I got back into the world of trading and markets, well, as I said, I went back to university, and I met with a guy who was very well known on campus, very different to me. He was sort of the alpha, everyone knows kind of guy, and we got along quite well. And then we started to think about, okay, what can we do? What can we build? And then we essentially started to, start building our own company in our final year. And that business is the business I've been working on, for the last 6 years. And it's been pretty much like, quite interesting story from just 2 to 3 and 4 of us to pretty much to a 100-man business. In 2018, voted as the best company to work for in London and the second best business to work for in the UK under the
That's
small
smashing.
categories.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
and
Yeah.
it's we do a lot of, it's more in the young millennials employer branding space. So we help companies to build a strong image to attract young people. Because the question essentially is like, if people like myself leave those big companies, they will struggle for talent. So how do we solve that? So we've been doing that for the last few years. With clients range from Deutsche Bank to Marshall Wace to Nike to some Lloyd's of London, but more importantly than the clients and the growth story is that I wanted to build a culture where I can be myself and bring myself to work. And that was sort of the story in terms of building the business. Obviously, now we're going through interesting times with what's happening with the economy. But putting that aside, I always had the passion and interest for the markets and for trading never left me. I've kept on reading books, and I've read like all these books everyone reads, right? The Market Wizard books, the Turtle Traders. I've read the Trading in the Zone a
Training in
million
the zone.
times. Oh my God, I literally like I've read it so over and over again, and I just started people following on like the forums, FX Factory, and it's just like a little. And some people have the passion is footballs, others do other things. For me, this has been like a genuine passion. I just read so many things about it, watched all these videos, I just kept keeping myself in the loop. And at some point, I was like, okay, you know what? I was trying around with some demo accounts and this and that. But one of the things I've learned in my business journey, and one of the things I've been very grateful for, I had like really good mentors along the journey, really, really good mentors. And I told myself, okay, if I wanted to actually perhaps, experiment or play around with, or start making some serious money with trading, this can't be just like a thing you do on the side. Everything you do, you got to be 150% committed, and you have to treat everything like a business. And one of the key things to treat everything like a business, you need to have strong mentors. You have strong people, who've done it before, who have the experience, who can guide you, who can push in the right direction. So what I did is, I just went on LinkedIn and said, I'm just looking for people, who had like FX trading backgrounds or God knows what, or currency trading backgrounds. And I was just messaging people, and obviously there's a lot of people you realize probably as spammers and God knows what. But
Yeah.
there's this one guy who actually got back to me. And he said, yeah, let's meet for a coffee. And then I was like, okay, there's nothing to lose here. So I met him for a coffee. He's not an English national. His English wasn't great, but seemed like a nice, genuine guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me about his story in terms of trading and the journey he's been on, and the money he's lost, and the psychological impact, the ups and downs. And he said, like, man, yeah, you know what? I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to guide you. And so I started to having like daily calls with this guy, just not long, for like, 10, 15 minutes, just at the end of the day before to go to sleep, look at like daily charts. Because bear in mind, the business takes a lot of my energy and
That
resources.
is a
But,
busy business.
yeah,
Yeah.
so talking at the end of the day, we're having the chats, and he told me about this sort of, there's when price goes to like into the third wave, it comes back to the fourth and the fifth, there's a peak, you go into the reversal, like very, very basic. And he was trading, but he was trading and he showed me these things, and he also then told me after a while, because I was making progress, I was learning, but I think I was sort of his first student or the first person he was ever teaching, God knows what. So it was quite confusing to me because he would say one thing and then he would do something else, but he was a great guy, and he
I know
sent me some.
exactly what you mean.
He sent me some.
It's the beginning of when you start sharing your ideas. When you
Yeah,
learn something and you start sharing it, you're not really right at the stage three. The article that
yeah,
the recent one, um, referring to that. It's when you get to that stage when it really becomes part of you. Two things can happen. One is that you probably forget how you learn this, so you won't be able to teach anyone. Then there are other people like this guy who collaborated with you, and he wanted to teach you or share his ideas. So while he's sharing, he probably would tell you a few things, and this just resonated with me because I used to do this as well in the beginning. When I was sharing my stuff, I would upset a couple of people saying, okay, this is how we do it, but that was the ideal way of doing it, right? And then they would find me doing it slightly differently, and then the engineering mindset people would get really upset, saying, well, this is rule breaking. And I would say, well, it's not a rule breaking, it's a bit of a parameter. But it happens, and that's interesting. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so you just made a really interesting point. Engineering type of person. I always said the idea of trading is like there's 1, 2, 3, and then you follow the rules, and then you get an outcome. But trading is not. Once you get through the process, and the process I've been with you for the last sort of I think 6 months properly, you realize after a while trading is an art. It's not a science. You need a science background and the foundation to build give you the foundation. That's the science, right? But the what makes you as a trader long term is the art, and the art of it. But anyway, that was later on.
No,
but
because
this
because you mentioned that, I would add a bit to it. Is because why the 3 stages are, is that first stage is very mechanical, right? So that's the engineering bit. You would see. I want the people to like if you're in batch stage 1. And you're doing your batches, you would see the market go right in front of your eyes, and your trading rules will be not allowing. In fact, your trading rules will say, stop, don't trade this. And you can see it. It's moving. Why am I not trading it? And that creates a thought process in your head to say, why am I not doing this? Because you are in a mechanical stage. You are learning to be disciplined. And then as you go to stage 2, and then your rules kind of relax a bit, then you start adding things like you said, the art of it is developing. And then by the time you go to stage 3, you have understood that the science bit of trading is the back testing and getting the edge off the market. And the art bit is actually applying that science. So there we go.
Absolutely. That's pretty much summarized perfectly there, so that's the journey. And obviously at that beginning, I didn't really understand that this is the journey. So when this guy was telling me something, and it was just confusing, not confusing to me, but it's just, I think I was still very immature in terms of the learning process as such. So, and I think he was also struggling to perhaps relate it in a way, because you probably thought like hundreds of people. So you need to have a process and a mechanism and a way of teaching people, and it works. I guess he was trying to do that, but he shared a lot of interesting material and books with me, and we were doing it. And then at some point he just disappeared. And he disappeared for a while. He disappeared. But this is the good thing, one of the books he shared with me was this thing called AIMS 10 second. Yeah. and I'm like, okay, this AIMS 10 second. I was reading it. I was like, okay, this sounds quite interesting. There's a 1, 2, 3. It reads very well. And that's at the time, and you remember in April, that's when I signed up to AIMS, right? So I signed up to AIMS.
That's very interesting.
I was playing for I was reading the material, and I was like, hey, this reads quite well. I was doing it for a couple of weeks, and then he disappeared again. He appeared again. And then he was sort of taking me into a different part. He was showing me some other guys, and I was sort of distracted again for a few months. Learning, but just learning something else, and because that was my mentor at that time, so I was following him, what he was doing, and I would be ever grateful for him for introducing me to essentially the world properly, and I guess sharing that.
So the 10-second Elliott Wave book, you got access to that?
I had access to that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then, yeah. So I signed up to yours, and he came back, and then for a few months. I was distracted again with some other things he was teaching me, and he disappeared again. And
yeah, everyone's going through their own journey, isn't it?
So, but either way, I was like, okay, great. But then I returned back to the AIMS forum. I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I just need to find a way I can, I need to be consistently taught and trained. So that's when
you wanted to decide, you want to do it, or just,
exactly.
Don't do it. Don't just leave it hanging. That's what a lot of people do. You would have seen so many journals in the forum. They get started with beautiful words and everything, but second and third post, they're gone.
And even in the chat, you see so many people coming, and then you never anything again. There's like
Yeah,
even in my time, I've been not been longer, 6 months.
yeah.
People who been with me at the beginning and I have no idea where they're going now. So it's. But for me, the thing about me is like once I put my head to something, and if I feel like I'm really passionate about it, and I really want to learn about it, I commit myself 150%, and that's with anything I do. I start a lot of things. I start a lot of things. I try to learn poker and God knows what, and like doing like squash. But I know very quickly if I'm really into something, and if I'm really into something, I'm like 150% committed. I literally my brain goes in like proper. Let's get it done. Let's learn zone. One of the examples is like golf. I got into golf like a year and a half ago, and I'm obsessed. And there's a lot of similarities between golf and trading, but I'm not going to go into details because I know a lot of people are bored by golf. Yeah, so I got into your.
Yeah,
I
if you
got
said
into.
cricket, we could have gone another 2 hours.
But no, I started going through your stage one.
Oh, this
Absorb.
was supposed to be my next question. So it was like,
Yeah.
what do you do these days, and what is your method?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm doing these days, well, I went through all these stages, right? And I started committing myself and doing this T20 badges. And as I
Yeah.
was doing the T20 badges, one of my problems and one of the things you probably realized is that, well, I like to learn things, but I like to learn things myself. I like to come to the conclusion myself. And also, I can be quite impatient at some point, where I just quickly go and I want to more, 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 more.
Mm.
But along the
Oh,
way, what's been great
before
with your teaching, go on, sorry.
before we get there, I mean, would you like to kind of explain to people who are listening just
Yeah.
what is the three stages? Just quickly, you
Yeah.
refer to the stages. So how does it go?
Yeah, so the stage one essentially is where you start with your S1 very mechanical strategy. So it's pretty straightforward
Mm.
rules where you have a peaking AO, the gator is sleeping, you got a small box, and then your trade management is set for you. You get in, you win or you lose. There's no fancy break even or trailing or God knows what. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, and by the way, to all the listeners, we trade the DAX, in the M1 chart,
Yeah.
and so it's a very straightforward mechanical way of doing in stage one. So essentially, what you get used to is you get used to the idea of A, taking trades, and B, sticking to your plan, and most importantly, what you're training there is you're just training to follow a plan, to be disciplined, to stick to a rule, and that's sort of stage one. And when you get into stage two, you add a couple of other entry methods, so which gives you more options, and we call it the hunt,
The
right?
hunt
The
method,
hunt,
yeah.
the hunt method.
And is that your pop-up going in the background? Those, or is it mine?
I think it's yours.
Oh, it must be mine, yeah, because I heard it in my. Okay,
Yeah, mine's
I need to switch it off. There you go. Yeah, can't be
yeah,
looking at charts while doing this, right?
yeah. So without going too complex into the factual geometry of things, because I believe a lot of people may just listen to it, the hunt essentially is the S1 of stage one in just in different sort of time frame.
It's a
But
different dimension, yeah.
dimension. But anyways, you add the hunt, and you work with that. I started with the seed and then with the cherry. You work with that. Do a few batches. You get used to it. And as the key here as well towards stage one and two is you learn your methods, but the things you got to do is screen time. You got to spend time just observing how the market moves and how the market flows, and that essentially in the long term will give you the edge, which then we refer as the art of trading, because the market moves in a certain pattern, and you want to be in the market when the market moves the right way, right? And it's
Yep.
difficult. You can't really put down pen and paper. You can only get that if you watch the charts. So that's sort of stage two. And in stage two, you also start developing the idea of, okay, how do you start perhaps managing the trades in a more efficient way? How if you like 1 hour up or you're well into profit into your trade, you don't want to go back and lose the whole trade and have a loss, right? So you just start working around with those ideas in terms of how you manage your trades. And for me, also the most importantly in stage 2, what I then realized, it's, the trading is one thing. You've got your strategy, you've got your setups, you've got your methodology, and that's perhaps 20% of it. 80% is your head, is the mental game. And that idea only started to make, I realized properly in my stage two, once I was doing a few batches. So that's like sort of stage 1 and stage 2.
That's very
And then
interesting.
and then stage 3 is where, well, towards the end of stage 2 as well, I guess it's where you also redefine your entry methods, where you say like, okay, depending on certain conditions, how can you make money when some things may not add up in a particular fashion or add up in a different fashion? How do you pick your right entries and exits? But that's sort of stage 1. Towards the end of stage 2, that's where you get to that point. But for me, stage 3 now, where I guess I'm sort of on the periphery between stage 2 and stage 3, where it's more about it's now about just nailing down on my methods, but more importantly, it's the mental side of things. That's sort of the biggest thing out of all of this. Where you can look at the charts and you just relax when you trade. That's the position I want to get to. I think once I get to that position where I can trade a reasonable amount of money, but also being relaxed because you've seen those things happen so many times before. And where roughly what's going to happen, you take a loss and it doesn't really affect you. When you're going to get out, when you get in, and you're just in that zone of trading and making decisions without being like hyper or depressed when you lose a trade. When you just flowing and you are relaxed and, as you said, stress-free. That's like the fundamental aim of stage 3. You want to be psychologically so sound that you can take on the market, because I think that's where the majority of people fail. It's your head. Because if your head is not in the game, there's no chance.
Yeah, you want to get to that. You get stress-free because you acquire a probabilistic mindset, right? So when you
Absolutely.
get that probabilistic mindset through this exercise of the T20s, you realize that your next trade, all you can do is to make sure it's a good setup. And you have done your work. As soon as you have clicked that button or that trade has been triggered, you can't do anything about it. The only thing you can do is to just apply your trade management, because you know that the outcome of the next trade is random. But the outcome of the next 20 trades, it's not random. It's in your control.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much the 3 stages.
So we all want to get to that stage where you acquire the risk-free state of mind. As if like you're trading a demo account. You don't care if you lose or win. Only in stage 3 where you do care, but it doesn't affect you. So because it's expected, that this trade could be a -1% or it could be a 2%. You just don't know at the time, but that if I continue doing the same thing over and over, 20, 50, 100 trades, the aggregate of the all trades is always going to be positive because we have a trading edge, right? So another question, it must have been bothering you. Like, am I stage 3? When am I going to get into stage 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's been bothering,
And it's yeah. So what do you think? Are you in stage 3?
I'd say I'm sort of putting my feet into the stage 3 right now.
Yes, I would agree. And the next question would be like, is there an end to stage 3? People do ask me like, okay, so somebody goes into stage 3, how long does it take? And I never answer that, but I will answer now. There is no end to stage 3, because stage 3 is just there. You just learn all the tricks and you just keep doing the thing. It's like if you were learning golf and you'd say, do you know how to play golf? And you say yes. Then after that, what level are you? You can't really point it out, can you?
It's a lifelong thing. You got to learn and improve,
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm very passionate about self-improvement and self-development, and I've read pretty much all the self-help books, and I mean, like it's and one of the things I'm very passionate about, which is helping me a lot with trading, is I am keen to improve myself all the time. Even this trading made me ask a lot of deep questions about myself, and one of the things people don't realize, and this is the psychology side of things, is that you think trading is just pressing a button and that's it, and then you just win or lose, or you break even, or God knows what. It's not. There's so much deeper underlying things going in your head, and for me, that's been probably been the most exciting journey of all of this, is that I got the opportunity to ask myself the questions, why am I reacting the way it's supposed, like it is. I don't want to go too much into details, but let's say back in the days when I was even trading with a demo and I would lose, right? You would think
Mm-hmm.
it's fake money, there's nothing to lose. You lose. I hated losing. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter if
Exactly.
it's really,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's like £1,000,000 or a fake 10 quid, fake demo quid, 10 quid. For me, it was not, it was just the idea, oh shit, I'm going to lose, you know,
Yeah.
and I had to work on that. I had to work on that, on going deep in, doing, hypnosis, meditation, reading books, getting an understanding of what's happening in my mind. And that is, for me, is like, so that's why I love trading, and that's why I also love golf. Is trading is like, you become a better trader once you become a better person. Simple as that, because I mean, you can keep on teaching me these methods, and they make money. You've been profitable, you've been great, you've been, teaching me along the way, and it's you're teaching all the other guys. It's there, it's written there. You've written it, you put it out there, like, simple. Do this, and you'll become a profitable trader, right? And that's all there. It's there to be grabbed. But the thing which is not there is, and no one can help you apart from yourself, is you gotta work on yourself. You gotta work on your self-esteem, on your deep underlying issues, and deal with your emotional side of things and the traumas you may have had as a child, and see how the relationship your parents have with yourself, how that's impacting your trading decisions. Like, these are like very profound questions you need to go through, and that's so exciting for me because it's making me a better person, and that in itself, it's helping me to become a better business owner, become a better CFO, become a better a boyfriend to my girlfriend. It's
That's
helping me in
absolutely
all
true.
parts of my
Because
life.
it makes you like you're a pleasant person to be around because you acquire a probabilistic mindset. So you never get upset if things go against you because you know there was a probability of it. When people
Yeah,
buy a lottery ticket, they don't get upset when they don't win. In
yeah,
reality, they have lost, but they don't get upset because their expectation is that most probably they will lose. If they win, they go
absolutely.
crazy. They're like,
Yeah,
"Whoa, I won!" And they should be because it was the probability of winning in lottery is really, really low. But when you bring that mindset to trading, uh, there's a high probability, far higher probability of winning, but equal or probably even less probability of losing if you have a proper strategy. But when we lose in trading, we get very, very upset.
yeah,
The Grant used to say the pain of 1 pip is equal to 10 pips. Winning 10 pips and losing 1 pip are equal in pain or pleasure. So if you were to put them on a scale, they would be kind of the same. And it's true. If you lose 10 pips, it hurts. If you make 100 pips, you're like, yeah.
it is pretty much just said it perfectly there. It's funny how your mind works, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's crazy. And we have to work through that. That's the most important thing, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah.
I think you've already answered one of my questions. Like to go through this, what would you know, your advice would be to people who are still looking to find the Holy Grail, right? Because everyone is looking for that, and
Everyone is looking for the
yeah,
Holy
for
Grail,
the Holy
for the
Grail.
quick money.
Yeah,
You know.
I think I've been saying it for years. Bill Williams put it in his book. The Holy Grail is we found it. It's you. It's inside you. it's it's
Absolutely.
it's the. I think we can put it this way that if if you're looking for the Holy Grail, and everyone is, if there was one thing, it's a metaphorical thing, right? is there the one thing that would answer the question of like how to trade and stuff? I think I would be that, you got to understand, if we're looking at the technical side, you have to understand that the market moves in waves. And if you understand waves, then waves doesn't go up or down in same direction. They go in waves. That's the definition of waves, going up and down, peaks and troughs. And so when you understand that, you then know that, okay, if you are trading the wave, then your equity curve, your graph of your wins and losses is also going to go like a graph, like a wave. And the question then is, how smooth can I make it? And that's where the risk management comes in, right? Because when you win 2 R's, which is 2 units. And when you lose only 1 unit. So in stage 3, I know you're working these days on actually improving your odds even more by using advanced trade management. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? I mean, there's plenty of other stuff that we can talk about.
Yes, I mean, there's so much to talk about this, right? In terms of, the yeah. I mean, just to go back to the original question you said, what would you give advise new traders, people who want to look for the Holy Grail? As you just said, it's A, the Holy Grail is within you, but B, for anyone just wanting to get into trading and starting out, like, obviously find out to Ames because it's a great way. Find a good mentor, find a group, a community, like we have on the Slack channel, who is willing to share ideas and learn together. It's a collective mind is better than the individual mind. So have a group you can share ideas with, have a mentor, and I'm obviously very grateful for everything you've been teaching me over the last 6 months, and the patience, and also, I always say a great mentor understands the student, and no student is the same, and
It takes a
yeah,
lot of effort from basically the student side as well, because not everyone is there. I'm not really like a professional mentor or anything like that, but it all started with, just like your friend did, but ours worked out better. We had 10 people. We were teaching each other, learning from each other, and it just carried on, right? So I think group is more important. And I read a study long time ago, and that's why I never allowed more than 20 people in our chat room, because the research suggested that the best figure for groups is 12. So 12 people, their productivity is at the peak.
got it.
Up
Okay.
to 20, it's fine. So we realized that when we have 20, about 8 of them are completely dormant kind of people. They like to listen. They're in the background. And about 8 to 12 stay active. So we kept the trading room at around that level for ages. And it helps. But I think the role that journal keeping has played in your success so far, I think one can't say
Yeah,
enough
I
about
mean,
that. Yeah.
that goes without saying, right? You like I'm like very, very obsessed. I just, at the end of the day, I just go again, look at the charts, make notes, go through it over again. Look at what everyone else is doing, go through the chat, just learn, observe, mark, make mistakes, go again, why, and visualize those things. I'm like even these days when the world is standstill. I mean, I'm up every day at 5:30. I wake up. I'm on my desk at 6:30, 6:45.
Oh, I forgot to ask you this. Yes, we didn't really talk about the DAX M5 M1 method in detail, do we?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to go in
No.
too much detail. I mean, as much as you like, but I think because that is what you do, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what do you do? What do you trade?
Very
And you're kind of like, you wake up,
good way.
yeah, yeah.
I wake up 5:30. I do my typical things like meditation, get my good breakfast and stuff. And but luckily, the fortunate thing for me is that I live in central London, and my office is quite close to my flat, and I can literally walk to the office. And obviously, there's no one in the office. I'm not putting anyone at risk at the moment. No one in the office at the moment. Everyone's at home, so I've got this sort of huge private space for myself,
That is
and
fantastic. Yeah.
I'm literally on my desk, and 6:45 I go again through yesterday's yesterday's trades, read about things, to, again, do a bit more meditation. I've got like my written journal. I go through things and I write down, okay, this is my plan, this is my strategy. Perhaps catch up on a few things in the Slack channel around like 7:30ish, 7:30, 7:40. I start to, look at the price, look at how the market is flowing, see how things are adding up. What could be, if there's any opportunities around LO. And then, then once LO starts, then open, the bell rings, we just wait and see and see whether we find any opportunities and just get on. And that's for a good couple of hours, and then I'm off the charts, taking a break, do sort of do gym, meditation, all sorts of stuff, and then back at the New York Open, and that's pretty much sort of a regime I've been having. It's been working relatively well for me. Everyone obviously has to find their own little patterns and timeframes and things they wanted to do, but this has worked out quite well and nicely for me.
Just like we tell them, if they just dedicate 2 hours and not more and just leave it, do you think that would help?
I mean, do you mean just look at the 2 hours in the morning and that's it?
And that's it, yeah. And then do your journal and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Like the honest answer is like it would, if you wanted to get into it, yes, definitely it helped. But if you really want to go 150%, the more you can get in, the better. Is everything, right?
Put in the hours.
So yeah, you got to put in the hours in, and it's with everything you do, right?
So it's all about the chart time.
It's all about the chart time. I would love to say to people, hey, go and look at the chart like 5 minutes a day, and you can become a billionaire. But it doesn't work like that, I mean, it works for people who've done it for like 60 years and have enough sort of 10,000 hours behind them. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can look at a chart for like 2 seconds and then that's it, right? But at the beginning, you got to put in the time and the effort in it. Otherwise, it's like just a dream, isn't it? Or like a false dream where just do this and that's it. You got to put in the work and you got to put in the hours and not only the chart time, but also looking at the chart after chart time is over, right?
Yeah.
So doing the screenshots and doing the scribbling around, and it takes time, and it's not easy. Like it's trading is someone, I think you mentioned before, it's simple, but it's not easy. That makes sense.
You see,
you
there's, do you remember that Spaghetti Junction in Birmingham?
The spaghetti is not next to the.
It is next to Aston University.
Yeah.
It's going there. I don't know if you were driving that time, so you probably won't.
No, I was just the buses.
Yeah, if you weren't driving, it can be quite complex because you can make a wrong turn and one moment you're going towards London, going out of Birmingham, and the next moment you see you're going towards Manchester. But if you live in this area or if you've been traveling in that route a lot, you'd be talking to your friends and swearing at your children going somewhere, right? And you would make the right turn because there are in that junction you have, like, as you're going out from Aston Express, it's called Aston Expressway. So as you're going out,
that's the one. That's the one. Aston Express.
Yeah, the Aston Express. So you as you go out, and you might have come across a lot of those situations in London because it's very complicated. But once you get used to it, you don't think about it. And it just becomes part of you. But you can't achieve that being completely used to it without actually, putting your hours in there. I won't say the 10,000 hour rule apply. You don't have to have 10,000 hours, but 1,000 hours can get you to competency. 10,000 hours is basically the rule for mastering a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a rough guide, right?
Absolutely, and it's, as I said, as I always say, the more the better, and people will have limitations. You will have, obviously right now it's a good time because it's the world has come to a still stand. So a lot of people have more time, I guess. But even if people have, people other things going on, and in my scenario, obviously got a bloody, got a business to run and all these things to do. It's you just need to find the balance. What works, but the more the better. And but yeah, that's huge. And the last piece of advice as well is, like, I always forget about talking about this, like the principle of 220. Yeah, that's pretty much changed everything for me. Just looking at everything in the form
It
of
is a
T20.
fantastic principle, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
it does multiple things at the same time. It's not just it doesn't only teach you how to trade the setup one and then how to add the hunt strategy. The hidden motive there is to actually install that all important probabilistic mindset into a trader's mind, because you keep on creating your personal data, right? You are
that's it.
taking your trades and you find out when you do your stats, you find out you have 33% of winners, 33% of break even, and 33% of losers. So then when you've done it 100, 200 trades, you know in the fragment of your being that these are the results I'm going to get in the next 20 trades. So you don't worry at all, do you?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's pretty much where you put it there, right? And it's also like it's a quite nice it's a quite nice feeling once you finish 20 trades, you know. And I always
The
take a few days
accomplishment,
off and
yeah.
to refer. It's like an accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
I still remember when I finished my first 20, I was like so happy. And the whole goal of my first 20 was to finish my first 20.
Yeah, I did a 3 month challenge of losing weight and getting in shape back in 2016 with a friend of mine. So we started going to gym, and we followed Chris Gethin's 12-week to muscle building program. I probably will put that link in the description as well. It's an amazing program to do. Very tough because Chris Gethin's. I really like his approach. He has the no bullshit kind of approach,
Wow.
where it says cheat days. What do you mean cheat days? There's no cheat days. That's it.
Yeah.
So there was no cheat days and stuff. He said I don't believe in this stuff, and I absolutely agree to that because it breaks your discipline. Anyway, so we did that, and I remember that last day, the last routine that I carried out. Literally, I was in tears, and it's just that sense of achievement, sense of that, oh, I've achieved something. It wasn't really great gains and stuff, but I knew that I haven't eaten a biscuit in 3 months. I have not eaten, high carb anything. I stuck to the plan and proper. So yeah, I think the T20s, when you achieve your fifth batch, it should give you that dopamine hit.
I mean, it does every time, you know. You know, after every batch, it's like you just yes, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a great way, and I'm applying this 220 to a lot of things I want to learn. You know, I'm just taking the same approach to golf now. You know, I'm looking at my game over 20 games, you know, over 20 rounds of playing golf, or I'm just trying to learn a little poker right now. So I'm dedicating myself like every day for 25 minutes. That's like one. I'm 20 sessions of
There's
25
a
minutes. So
there's a guy
it's
in a forum called Mikey. He's in Poland. I don't think he posts anymore, but he used to post some amazing things in his journal. He applied the T20 principle to his diet as well. So he
yeah.
he he applied it T20 for the day if he's eaten correctly today, because he's enjoying. He's a Brit living in Poland. Uh, Passive income. So for him, food is very cheap for him over there. So he kind of eats all the way from outside, and he was putting a lot of weight. And he put it in as one of his article was that he applied this T20 not only to his trading but his normal life, and he was very happy with it. He got good results.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's powerful. It's powerful. So I'm urging all these guys in
There's
the
something in
Slack
the
channel.
20s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The
It is something about
80-20
it.
principle, the T20, and then we have the Pomodoro. It's almost
I know.
25 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all comes together to that. So it's interesting.
So that's fantastic. It was lovely to talk to you. I really thought we'll talk for like 15 minutes. Yeah.
I think you gotta cut a few things out here now.
No, but
Like an hour.
it's great. No, I'm not going to cut anything. I mean, I don't have time for that, but it's a lovely conversation. And I mean, I feel that we can take one of these points, and you and I could probably be talking about it, because you seem to be the kind of guy who likes to express himself.
100%.
And you are the entrepreneur, so if you can't talk, you won't be able to,
So yeah, I gotta
you
sell
sell your
myself.
product. Yeah, you got to sell yourself. And perhaps the way you're going, my guess is that if you carried on, I know you have this inventiveness in you, right? The innovation and stuff.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah,
here, that you have to curb it a bit at one point, where you
yeah.
just say, okay, this thing works, right? This thing works now. Just like when you buy a car, you you're using it and it works.
Mm,
So you don't go
true.
on and keep changing its oil and all that stuff unless you're a tuner or a petrol head. You keep doing stuff, but otherwise you just, oh, this car works. I'm going to use it. Same
That's it.
if you got that strategy installed into your brain and you start making it, you start using it. You just don't need to change. You carry on with your trading, and then you can
Absolutely.
focus on other things in life. This just carries on.
True. I think the last thing to that whole thing is just that Apple we just talked about today, right?
Yes.
I think,
on the
and then,
on the technical side, when you learn to apply the Apple method, I think
yeah,
from my point of view, you then know completely how to deal with the market on any time frame that you like. So you won't miss a trade if the box is big because you have an Apple. You will never miss a trade. So the Apple takes care of the zigzag wave 4, and the
yeah,
setup one takes care of the flat wave 4, right?
yeah,
And the hunt and the cherries then allows you to trade the same setup one and the Apple setups without going to a lower time frame. So you get the double.
that's powerful.
Yeah. So imagine if you were trading the M5 time frame. Let's suppose you're trading, your chart is split M5, M30.
Yeah,
So every trade that is a setup one on the M5, if you drop to the M1, you would find a seed signal there. And whenever you take an Apple signal on the M5 and you drop to the M1, you would see that ABC Apple. So when you take a cherry on the M5, it will be an apple down there.
yeah,
So that means you are actually trading the setup, but you're trading it on 2 dimensions. It is so powerful, and I love it. The process is so enjoyable, when it kind of goes and you take your
and it
trade and
starts
you keep
clicking.
using. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just, you gotta
it's
love
just
it.
that. It's just that I just started noticing because I obviously have a split chart and I started noticing. Okay, M5, there's these bloody cherries coming along on the on the S1. These boxes are big. Is there a way to get in? Because that's this cherry. It's like essentially like a cherry on the M5. How do you make use of that on the nice way on the M1? And then yeah, it just
That's the natural flow of things. So you see,
yeah,
what we did together in the last 6 months with you is that what we learned in the last 10 years of how it was evolving, because nobody taught us, right? It was me and
yeah,
Grant and Steve. We were just learning from it. Although Steve doesn't even trade the method, but he understands our method. He's a
mm,
coder, right? But I've been trading it and Grant's been trading it. We discovered the structure and then what works in the structure and stuff. So bit by bit, and then around 2017, I think we stopped. We haven't added anything after that because we think the method is perfected. It's just there. You just gotta
yeah.
trade it. That's it. Nothing else.
So yeah, so that's for me. The last bit I need to get into my trading plan. The Apple and how I work with that. It's just there's a few questions still I have around the trade management, but obviously that's not for this conversation.
Yeah. By the end of
Uh,
next month, you will
yeah.
be stage 3.
Wow.
You probably have another interview. Yeah.
See how I'm doing, yeah.
Yeah, see how it goes. Anyway, Ganesh, it's been lovely to talk to you and
Brilliant.
catch up
Likewise.
with
Thank you.
you in a little while, to be honest, because we're going to take a break and then there's going to be US session, right?
Absolutely.
All right. See you
Cool,
then.
cool.